Welcome to the second Make It Pink Flosstube. I want to thank Alice Roy for advising me to use Flosstube in the title. There's a lot that I want to cover today. I have a little handwritten list here like I did last time. I feel like that kept me really organized. I wanted to look at some of the finished stitching that I got done in December and early January this year. Most of it is not ironed yet. The iron situation currently is I have to move the whole kitchen table. The more steps that I put in front of myself to make this happen, the less likely it is to happen. So here I am with mostly unironed pieces. And then another large hurdle that I go through when finishing artwork is I don't like to take photos, and editing and dealing with the actual finishing of products is not what I like to do. And so I have so many other things going on that it just became, hyper unimportant. Despite two of these being gifts that need to go out in the mail, they're just hanging out here in this stack of things. So from the last video, what I learned, it took me 3 days to edit it, and I don't really mind listening to myself over and over and over and over again. The editing process was actually pretty fine. I was really concerned that the editing would be the worst part, but the worst part is actually just starting. Everyone was super, super nice to me. Thank you. The YouTube comments themselves were super nice. I had some comments on Facebook that were super nice. All of the feedback that I got from my friends, like vocally that didn't leave comments, were all super nice. I didn't expect anyone to be like rude, but I didn't expect quite such a positive feedback on it. So thank you very much. Definitely a week of recording and editing is not ideal, especially given how much else I have to do. So while this does take a lot longer than a newsletter, it is at least free compared to the amount of money that my web host wants to charge me to continue doing newsletters. So the real big news that would have been at the top of the newsletter should it have gone out is that I'm now working with Karen Hallian. I think that's how her name is pronounced. I contacted her sometime before my move, so sometime last year or possibly in 2023. Sorry, I'm not talking to Karen directly. I'm talking to someone named Amy that works for Karen, and she had told me that they already had someone to do cross-stitching, and I was like, okay, no problem. She had left me on, we will reach out again kind of an email. But in the meanwhile, I had contacted Sunset Dragon and, got quite a lot of artwork from Sunset Dragon to work with her. So when she contacted me this year to say that they were interested in bringing me on to do patterns, I looked at my to-do list and I was already overflowing. My workload is my plate's been full. It was overflowing. Adding Sunset Dragon in and adding Karen Hallian's artwork in has put me at capacity. And I've noticed that definitely this past week. Being at capacity has really, I'm noticing more mistakes, immediately. And I'll talk about that a little bit later when I talk about the new Hannah designs that went out. I haven't been at capacity since I was running the alteration shop, and that was not a pleasant capacity. That was a very bad time. But this is the most positive at capacity that I've been. It feels very good to be constantly busy. I really hate those time periods where I'm just sitting and looking at my computer I don't know what to do, trying to fill the day versus having the day filled and trying to organize it. So the to-do list, this big to-do list, this is all the patterns that I've signed myself up to. There's a whole lot of things, and Karen fit just here and then over this way, and I was like, oh no, I'm running out of paper. So she's given me 24 pieces of art to work with, and I've already finished the first 2. The third one is potentially done today. I'm just waiting on some final approval on colors. Most of them are pretty quick, easy stuff to get out. Some of them are much more complicated. It does push a lot of the other patterns lower in in the queue, despite them being on this list so much longer. So part of what I really notice with myself is if I'm doing things for myself, while I'm much happier doing that, those projects definitely take lesser priority versus something that's like a commission or there's money directly tied to it. When I was negotiating patterns with Hannah, part of what I told her was like, it doesn't matter to me so much if I make her design into a pattern. If I only ever sell one copy of it, that person that bought it is still going to be super happy, right? Maybe that character was just fringe enough, or, it just spoke to them. Maybe they did that cosplay themselves, or maybe they had a friend that did it. But for whatever reason, it means enough to them that they want to buy that pattern. I'm in it. That's what I want to do. I want to bring these things to life for people. And it could mean something to them. Versus the commission work, it doesn't really matter to me if I like Karen Hallion's artwork or not. She's paying me to turn them into patterns. And I'm going to give her that priority over everyone else because that money's up front. And it's important that I fulfill it, not just in, that she's paying me and stuff, but that, that's my reputation and that's my promise to get things done. It's part of why when I did pre-orders for Hannah's stuff, it was more like a sign-up sheet versus a real pre-order because I didn't want to take anyone's money and then not be able to fulfill it. I'm in a nice privileged position to be able to do that. If I create a sign-up sheet and I never finish that pattern, no one's out anything. I'm also not like starving or anything because I didn't take anyone's money up front. It works out for me that I do seem to like most of the artwork that Karen Hallion gave me. There's a couple of her pieces that I would like to stitch for myself, which always helps. I feel like that adds quite a bit of motivation for me to get them done. And there's some other pieces where it's not necessarily that I don't like them, but I don't know that they translate quite well into cross-stitch. Some of her pieces are very flatly colored, which translates much better. Some of them are more very painterly. Not quite watercolor, but you can see some of the brush strokes and stuff. Even though she's doing it digitally, you can really see that, and that can be pretty frustrating to translate into cross-stitch. I don't think any of it is undoable, but it's certainly like some of these projects are quick and some of them are large. I'm most looking forward to her Alphonse Mucha-esque Princess Bride. I think that looks amazing. We're trying to get a bunch of the smaller designs out first before we tackle those larger ones. I finished the Urte letters at last. According to various online sources, the best that I can see is that it took him 40 years to put this collection together. And obviously he's creating from a very different place than I create my patterns from. I didn't have to come up with all of these letter designs from scratch. I'm working from his pieces. But I'm quite proud of myself that it didn't take me 40 years to make patterns out of them. I do think it took me longer than it needed to get them done, but some of them were quite complex. Some of them were not. Some of them went really, really fast, and I was like, oh, that's it. Why did I put that off? Could have been done yesterday. Could have been done last week. So my favorite ones, the most famous one is Elle, right? I think that one is very cool. It was really fun to do all those leopard spots. I found it to be a unique challenge. But I think my favorites are Z and R. They are just covered in beads. They're so pretty. I think I like Z more than R because R has quite the head feathers happening. I think Z is a lot prettier just as herself. While B, I wouldn't say is one of my favorites. I really, really enjoyed the snakeskin texture on top of her. That was really fun to put together, and I think she'll really sparkle by the time that she's finished. My least favorite, other than what I think would be the obvious least favorites of the men, I don't like X, Y, Q, or S. It just doesn't do it for me. I think W is really fun, but I don't like that it's a guy. I wish that it had been a woman in the middle. I think my least favorite is U. If you were following along with that in the Facebook group, you really held me up. There was a really big art block with you. Every time I opened it up, I was just overwhelmed by the fruit. I didn't want everyone to stitch. The back stitching for the fruit would have been not fun. I didn't want to try to size out all of the different grapes. Like, it's a lot going on. Because of the way that I am, I really wanted to be able to, if I say that there's specialty materials like I did for R, I want to be able to offer those specialty materials. But I looked at like bags of sequins, and you can get tens of thousands of sequins for like no money. And I was like, you know what? If someone wants to stitch you, they can just buy a bag of sequins, and I leave it to their own creativity to bring this together. And I just called it done. It took me a couple hours to put together where all of the sequins would be placed, and I was just like, get done. Honorable mention is Kay. I think Kay is pretty neat, but I wish that she wasn't so distressed looking. I wish that she was happier with her situation. If I was going to stitch Kay, I would make her happy and not so sad. So happy to be done with the Urte letters. I don't know that I will work with any more of Urte's art. He had a very prolific portfolio. Maybe long in the future when I'm not at capacity with my work, I'll go back and revisit that. The first 3 patterns in Hannah Alexander's 17th series are ready, and this is the Pokemon series for her. Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. With Bulbasaur, I knew before basically I knew anything else about her that I wanted her to be sparkly. I wanted lots of Krenek on her. I knew that she was going to be not too much of a struggle color picking wise. DMC has quite a lot of green selection. I think in part green must just be a really easy thing to get dye for. A lot of cross-stitch patterns have to do with like flowers. I feel like there's lots and lots of shades of green, lots of plants, lots of different types of plants, versus like the purple palette, which we have like 10 shades of purple, and we have to suffer. For Charmander, I really wanted the bottom of her dress to like sparkle a lot, but I didn't have enough shades of orange Krenek to kind of make that happen all by itself. Those are very like neon orange down at the bottom of her skirt where the fire is. So what I did was I picked the closest DMC cottons to that, and then we worked in the Krenek blending filament for orange to make the whole piece sparkle right there. It'll be a softer sparkle. It won't be quite as intense as what I envisioned originally. I think that subtler sparkle will actually end up as a bonus versus a detraction. And then when I was doing her headdress, she's got that big gem in the middle of her forehead, and I was like, it'd be really cool to like have a gem there instead of stitching it flat, because you're going to have all the beads going up and around, and you'll have all that dimension, but then it'll be flatly stitched there. So I thought if I can find a gem, I wanted more of a diamond shape like this to match the original artwork, but anything that I found this size was too tall and it wasn't matching the dimensions that would have worked with the original artwork. So instead of getting like a too giant kind of a gem, I just went with a square. But I think that they turned out really nice. I think the selection worked out well. I think when people stitch it and they get that gem on her head, I think it'll be a nice like little extra. For Squirtle, the largest design decision was the beadwork. She's got a lot of sheer fabric going over like her necklaces. The sheer itself has beads on it. She's got sections of her skirt where the beads are on top and below where the sheer fabric is. She's got beads in her hair. Because of the blue transparent fabric, I was referring back to her Kita design quite a lot. And in that, Mom and I had picked a lot of beads to go with the sheer fabric. You know, the back beads are like a transparent blue and the foreground beads are that solid white. And I really wanted to mimic that sort of design choice in Squirtle. When I was putting together the final compilation of her supplies, I noticed that I had put the wrong size beads in the wrong spots. So a size 6 bead is larger than a size 8 bead, and at the very end of her braid, she's got 2 really big beads, and I didn't really want those to just be stitched flat. I wanted that to have the dimension on it. When I was putting together the final compilation on things, I noticed that I had put size 8 beads at the bottom of her braid and size 6 beads for her whole necklace. And the moment that would have been stitched, it would have been noticed as a problem. Like, the size 6 beads were not going to fit. So I switched it around. It wasn't a big deal to fix. It was just one of those things where I realized that, like, I'm overworking myself. I'm very much at capacity. I'm making mistakes. On this trio, there were a couple problems with, like, the PDF cover pages. I had to go back and fix those. I think I had the wrong page numbers on one of them. Like, the cover sheet where it says, like, oh, there's 28 pages in this PDF. I think I had the wrong page numbers there. One of them, I had the wrong size at the top. Just little things that stacked up that I was like, oh, normally I don't make mistakes like this, but now I'm catching, like, a lot of these mistakes like this. And just kind of reminded myself to, like, slow down and really, like, focus. I was able to add some modesty edits to Bulbasaur and Charmander, because they do have quite a lot of cleavage happening. All three of these. I couldn't find, like, a real happy way to do it for Squirtle because of the way her bodice is designed, and because she has the sheer fabric going over everything. I'm sure someone out there is creative enough to make it work. The best that I came up with was putting a little sheer fabric right on top of the cleavage and just mimicking the way the sheer fabric is happening, like, over her arm. But it didn't look 100% to me, so I left it out. The next Hannah Alexander Pokemon are set to be Cubone, Pikachu, and Eevee. No evolution Eevee, just a plain Eevee. The Cubone, I had talked to Alice Roy about potentially doing some 3D printing for her special charms. But the more I looked at it, it was like, I feel like they're going to turn out better just stitched. The one that's on her waist is very particular, but that same emblem shows up down on her boot just at an angle. And so having two separate charms 3D printed for that just felt like a little too much. The Pikachu is going to have lots of beads. I'm hoping to really sort of overdo on the metallics. I don't think I'll be able to work in any glow-in-the-dark threads because those tend to have, like, a really strange coloring when it's not glowing in the dark. But I do think she'll have plenty of metallics and beadwork to make up for that. And then the plain Eevee, I'm going to try to work in some of the Rainbow Gallery fuzzy stuff. She's got fur, like, on her, I think it's the bottom of her pants, the edge of her skirt, the ruff on her neck, the ruff on her wrists. All of that fuzzy stuff should be really, really cool there. I think her beads are those discontinued allspice beads, which makes it really annoying, so I'll try to find a color that's not discontinued to work right there. Okay, so the patterns that I've finished and stitched myself from other people. This one is the Swamp Latte. Let's see if I can get this centered up. Here it goes. I don't know that I'm gonna get this, like, in focus for the camera. And like I said, I haven't been taking photos or anything, so I don't have nice pictures to put, like, inset in the video. This pattern is by Naywori on Etsy. My boyfriend's one request was that I didn't put the little X for the duck butt, so I didn't. I added some glittery Krennic to the fish and the dragonflies. I don't think I made any other, like, major changes to this one. I kind of stitched it just flat as, except for the Krennic additions. I don't remember making any other large edits to it, so that's probably all that I did. And anything else would have been, like, really minor. These frogs are from La Selva Design. These I finished on their hoops, and I used this backstitch finishing method for the backs of them, and I'll link that in the description. This little method here has helped me so much with these. I don't know that it would necessarily work real well on a large piece, but for these little guys that I just stitch in the hoop and I don't even have to move the hoop, it's great. It's really, really nice. These frogs and the swamp latte from before are supposed to go upstairs. My boyfriend and I have a video game room, and it's swamp themed. We're doing all kinds of little critters for up there. I also did these hippos, which I'll put a picture up right here. These are the only ones that I made myself take pictures of because they were a Christmas present, and if I didn't take pictures of them before Christmas, she wasn't going to get them for Christmas. The only thing that I did different for the hippos was I added a little Knick glitter to the water. So this is Tuxie in Carrot Garden by Stitch with Coffee. This one is one that I made a lot of modifications to. I did it as a birth sampler for my cousin. She just had a baby last summer. I was in the middle of my my move at this point, so I couldn't stitch it then. Everything was packed. When I got over here, I made it a priority to stitch, and then I ironed it even, but I just haven't given myself the time to photograph it and edit it and do all that other stuff. So I did a lot of changes to this one. I repositioned butterflies, I removed a butterfly, I redid a bunch of the little veggies and fruits at the bottom. The flowers are not going to show up on camera here. You can see them in real life. It sparkles. It looks great. And I added Knick to the butterfly wings. I don't think it's going to show up on pictures. This was really nice to do for my cousin. I really liked it. She's got a tuxedo cat that looks this way, which is part of why this was picked. And doing all the little fruits and veggies was fun. So this was a nice project to do. Another one that I ironed and then haven't bothered taking pictures of. This is from Lola Crow Cross Stitch. The Moonlight Mushrooms. Oh, the camera really hates that black fabric, doesn't it? Ooh, it did not appreciate that. There are some beads missing from the top of this. In the original pattern, they're just white stitches, but I wanted to put silver beads down for the stars. Again, this is for the swamp upstairs. I really like this pattern. Except for changing the beads, I don't think I did any changes to this. This was really flat. The original's on black fabric, but I think any other color would have looked a little weird on this one because it's nighttime. And all of the shading kind of expects you to have a black background on this. But I really liked this design. I'm not sure exactly where we're going to hang it upstairs because it's the black fabric, but it's going to fit up there perfect. This one is called Snail's Journey. It's from Nath Nolu on Etsy. It's just a cute little snail with mushrooms and stuff growing on his back. The big change that I did to this one was it had two little blush marks next to its mouth. And I'm so used to seeing the snail from Adventure Time, where the eye stalks aren't eye stalks, right? The eyes are down here by the mouth. It made it look so the blush marks are red. So it made it look like the snail was possessed. And I was like, oh, I don't want a zombie snail. I removed the blush marks, and so he just has the eye stalks. I changed the flower. Okay, the flower right here. On the original pattern, it's just a little stick flower. I changed it. In the to-be-made DeviantArt description, I'm going to have a link to this flower, because it's some pixel art that I pulled off of Google, and then I found the original artist for it. Nothing wrong with the stick flower, it just didn't really do it for me. And then I added Knick to these little bug wings. Second to last, this one again is for the swamp. This is Goblin Mode. It's designed by Grandma B. Wilden. I generally don't like stitching text. And this has kind of come up with me for the Karen Hallian designs, is a lot of her artwork has text involved with it, and I'm like, ugh. I don't really like stitching text. I go out of my way to avoid it. The exceptions tend to be birth samplers where the point is that there's a baby name on it. Wedding samplers, right, where the point is to have the people's names on it. So this was kind of a weird one for me to do. Goblin Mode, I think, is a really funny thing when people go Goblin Mode in games and stuff. And it's a swamp-themed video game room, so it fits even better. I made some super small tweaks to this pattern. I think I added some stitches where the swirly cues weren't complete swirly cues. I added a lot of Knick glitter to it. You can't see it because of the camera, but the snail shell, the butterflies, these little stars, and the crystals at the bottom all have Knick added to them for some extra sparkle. And I'm very thankful. My boyfriend encourages my glitter because I need to add it to stuff. I need to. The last piece on here, I wish I had more like definitive answers for where this pattern originated from. It's a magazine called The World of Cross Stitching. But I took that original pattern and I redid a bunch of the colors for it. So this is the other birth sampler that I finished, and this is a surprise for the mom. So I changed up all the colors on the roses, I changed the colors of the birds. This is stitched, again, the camera's not gonna like it, but it's stitched on sparkle fabric. Ooh, you can kind of see. That I actually bought so that I could stitch the Hannah Alexander, those small sewing motifs. I bought this fabric for that. And then he had a baby, and I was like, well, put all of that aside, for months, because I have to stitch this for your kid. So those are all the finished pieces that I have just sitting here waiting to be done. This one I was going to show off, but it's blank. I started, this is a commission piece that I started on the wrong fabric. Yeah, it's the first time I've ever done that. Speaking towards the at capacity, I have 2 commissioned pieces to stitch this year. One's due in June and one is due in December. And the one in December is meant to be stitched on blue fabric, and I started this one, due in June, on that blue fabric, and I was staring at it, and I was like, gosh, I don't think that's right. I think this is a mistake. And I went and I double-checked all of my notes, and sure enough, I had wasted an hour, and thank goodness it was only an hour, because I didn't want to buy new fabric, so I was able to tear out, I was able to frog all of those stitches and then restart on the new correct fabric. This is going to be a commission of 2 dogs. I think I can put that picture up here for the video so you guys can see the dogs. It's going to be really, really cute. So patterns that I bought recently. Not that I have enough to do, but a lot of these on Etsy are quite affordable in comparison to like buying a whole kit from 123. A couple of these shops were having 50% off sales. Some of these patterns have been on my wish list for a couple of years. And I looked at those 50% off sales and I said, if I'm not going to buy them when they're 50% off, am I ever going to stitch them? Like, am I ever going to buy these patterns, let alone stitch them? I'm basically going to be stitching my entire life, and I should give up video games as a hobby entirely if I ever want to finish these. The first one is another one from Nawari. This one is a rainbow crystal with a pink flower. I looked at this and I thought, I could add a lot of Kernick glitter to it. And it has a nice, spacing on it. It could go real nice in an oval hoop, and I could hang this either by my desk or in my workroom. Either way, it's really pretty, and I really like it. I finally went ahead and I bought some collections from Crafty Gurumi. I've actually worked with her a couple times. She does some of the freebies for the Hannah Alexander designs, and she's working on Link right now. I don't think I'll stitch all of these because they're like collection patterns, but I got the Fantasy Creatures, the Karoks. My boyfriend has made fun of me for that before. He says they're Karoks. I got the Final Fantasy minis, and the Zelda Ocarina of Time minis. Most of these I got with the intention of making gifts. A lot of my friends really like dragons, so I thought the dragon would be, because it's mini, it'd be very quick to stitch up as gifts. And I'm a fairy girl, so I think the fairy could very easily be stitched many times all over the place and be put around and be very cute. Smarty Owl has quite a few that have been on my wish list for a really long time, and then a couple that I just added this past year. The ones that have been on my list for like years are Nan's Garden and the Garden Bloom. These two are like, I stare at them and I'm compelled to stitch them. There's something about the white picket fence and all of the flowers that it just scratches my brain perfectly. Like, I've got to have those in my house. I don't know why it has that effect on me, but like, I need them. And I've needed them for a really long time. They've been in my cart and out of my cart and on the wish list, and I've stared at them, and it's always been this like, oh, I don't know. I have a lot of flower patterns. I have a lot of picket fences with flowers on them patterns, but I needed these. And then the other two that I got from this shop that are more recent is because of my boyfriend. He really, really likes rabbits. He thinks they're super cute, and I agree with him. But doing bunny motifs has never really been my thing. If I stitch them, which I have in the past, it's generally as gifts for like my cousin. But I saw this one and I thought, oh, super cute. But that would look very nice in our house, maybe in the entryway or above the little hall table that doesn't exist right now. But it would be very homey to have it there. And the other one was a goat. Because when I moved in, one of the very first things my boyfriend asked me was, could we get a goat? And I was like, no. He asked me why not, and I said, because I will be the one to take care of the goat while you're at work all day. The goat will be my responsibility, and I don't want a goat. So I thought, in a very minor, not real way to make up for that for him is that I could stitch a goat, and we could have the goat by the door. And that is all the effort that I'm willing to put into having a goat in this house. This one is another Zelda one from Borealis Stitch. This one I bought very specifically to be a gift for my brothers. I want to add metallic thread to this, and I want to do the heart container solo for myself. I'm obsessed with the heart containers ever since I was really little. Like, they hit that, magical girl, I must have this shiny heart section of my brain. So I'd really like to stitch this, twice. I got 2 patterns this last week from Cute Patterns by Maria. I have quite a few of her patterns. I'm a real big fan of her work. The bottle that I ended up getting is these little birds in springtime. Something about stuff in bottles just does it for me. I really like bottles a lot. And I think that these birds are real cute. It feels like a pattern where I would have wanted to stitch this more in like fall or winter as like a bottled springtime kind of thing. But I'm just going to be happy with it all the time. And then the other one, again, is for the swamp. This is a Halloween frog, but it's going to be in the swamp all year. I'm going to add some metallics to the moon. I might add a little bit of metallic to the frog flower. But it's going to be perfect for the swamp. So this is another solo one that I got as a gift from Sweet Annette. This is just a little sunflower field scene. Hene Kariko really likes sunflowers, so I thought that this would be cute to give for her. From Steph X Stitch, it's the little Moodang hippo being her angry self, and it says, "Become ungovernable." My mother-in-law-to-be loves hippos, so this will be for her. Hopefully I can get this done for Christmas this year. From Melee Missy Stitchery, I got the Hanging Tail Alolan Vulpix. My brother loves the Alolan Vulpix, and I had like this huge project planned out for him with a Pokedex, and like it was going to be awesome, and I was going to do some work with Cause, I think is what she goes by. I was going to get her to do some custom pixel work of Alolan Vulpix, and I had like this grand plan. And it must be since Sun and Moon came out that I've had this plan, and it has never happened. So I said, I need to be a little better about that. And I went ahead and I just bought this pattern. My intent is to do this on pretty small count fabric so that the pixel nature of it is kind of lessened. And I really like in her preview picture here that she decorated the hoop. I don't know that I will decorate the hoop. I might do what I did with the frogs, where the outer hoop is missing. But this will be really nice. And again, I intend to add a little Krenek glitter to this. The last 3 are from Owl and Thread. I also intend for these to be like just really cute ones for around our house. 2 of them are for probably the hallway or the entryway or maybe the kitchen, but the third one is definitely for the swamp. So the first 2 are these cabin by the water scenes. It's like sunset. There's really, really pretty foreground flowers. Much like the picket fence with flowers, this just hits the right notes for my brain, and I need them. These have been in my wish list for not as long as those picket fence ones, but a while. And I always look at them and I put them away, and I look at them and I put them away. And these are some of the ones that were on 50% off. And it was like, if I'm not going to get them now, I'm just never going to get them. And then the third one is these little mushrooms in a jar. And again, I love bottles. Jars are bottle adjacent. And they're full of mushrooms and they're really cute. And they're going to look awesom upstairs in the swamp room. That covers a lot. It covers everything that was on my checklist to get covered. My thanks to everyone for your support and making this pleasant and encouraging me to do it. It feels really good. It's not something that like I said, I didn't expect anyone to be mean, but I didn't expect the amount of positive feedback that I received. It's super cool. As always, just the most thanks that I can give to my mom for continuing to help me with the colors. And, like one of the Karen Hallian designs that we're working on right now is a Lady Liberty, and she's got green skin, and I was just like, this is really hard. But Mom is able to, just go at it and help me, and it's so cool. She can just do that. And I'd like to give extra thanks to my boyfriend this time. I really focused on my mom in the introduction, which she very much deserves, but I could not continue doing what I'm doing here in Pennsylvania without my boyfriend's support. And I know that he's not directly involved with a lot of my artwork, but he's so supportive and nice. And even before we were dating, when we were just still friends, he was always very into what I was doing. He asked questions. He wanted to see progress as it happened. He really liked seeing the final results. He liked seeing the stitching. He's very into it, and I really, really appreciate that, direct in-home support too. So thank you very much. Couldn't do it without all of you bringing this together. So until next time, I hope you're all having sane days and enjoying your stitching. And I hope, if not my overly complicated patterns, I hope this grocery list of patterns that I recently bought inspires you, and that you get to stitch and have some downtime for yourself.